Hi guys, this is Kimmy Yanks and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, I'm back in a very familiar setting. This is my residence and I've kind of done a cleaning of sorts of my setup. The setup that I used to usually shoot from. If you have been following my YouTube videos over the past few years, you would remember this simulator right here. But today I'm actually going to be speaking about how the 2024 title race in Formula One is unfolding. Well, Formula One returned from its summer break. I cannot term it as a mid season break because we are already 3 races past the midway point of the Formula One season. And yeah, this was the recently concluded 2024 Dutch Grand Prix. Was the first race after the summer break for all the Formula One teams, and it was, of course, the home race for Dutch hero Max Verstappen. And knowing his performances over the past couple of seasons, it was a no-brainer for people to put their money on Max Verstappen's Red Bull to take top honors come Sunday. However, things seem to have changed, and we are kind of seeing a titanic shift in dominance, if I can put it that way, with Lando Norris and McLaren claiming ascendancy in Zandvoort. And it was not just a victory for Lando Norris, even though it was only his second race win of his career. It was also a victory by a margin of 22 seconds, a gap unheard of in a Red Bull dominated era. Today, I'm actually going to be looking at the title race, not just on the constructors side of things, but also on the driver side of things, because now suddenly, even though we still have 9 races to go, we might be looking at a very tight drivers' championship with Lando Norris now slowly reeling in Max Verstappen after the Dutchman's earlier run of the season. Talking about the Constructors Championship, Red Bull Racing now leads with 434 points, 30 points clear of McLaren in P2. Well, the Constructors Championship is quite different because you have the aggregate of both the drivers' points from the race weekend that gets added to the team's tally in the Constructors table. Well, Red Bull will not be having an easy run to the title, and I really think that they will be overtaken by McLaren by the end of this season. For those of you who aren't aware, every team is now working with a cost cap limit of $135 million for the course of the season. Whenever there is a crash or damage done to the car, those figures are accounted for in the cost cap limit. And if you go beyond the cost cap, you attract penalties, not just on the financial side, but also in terms of getting your points docked. So Red Bull are already on the back foot because of Sergio Perez, the second driver that the team has alongside Max Verstappen, because he suffered from 2 crashes, one in Hungary and the other one in Monaco. The crash in Monaco was very, very bad, and he's racked up damages to the score of about 3.5 million, 3.5 to 3.6 million dollars. These damages have now affected the development curve for Red Bull Racing, and the team is now taking a very conservative development path, not really wanting to bring in upgrades until it is absolutely necessary for them, because eventually it will affect their cost cap limit at the end of the season. On the other hand, both the McLaren drivers have been well behaved, if I can put it that way, although their performances have been up and down for some time, but essentially on the financial side of things, McLaren have had the luxury to bring in a lot of upgrades over the course of the season. The second important thing for me is the contribution of Mr. Andrea Stella. Now, I have been a big fan of the man, when he was a race engineer, he's worked very closely with the likes of Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso. And on the managerial side of things, McLaren are very well taken care of by Mr. Zach Brown. It was the racing side of things that really needed an addressing too, and that's what Mr. Andre Stella has done. I also love how accurate and pinpoint he is when it comes to assessing the team's performance or giving his opinions after a race. So yeah, I'm really happy to see uh, him becoming successful again with the second most successful team on the grid in McLaren. And it was very important for McLaren to return to the sharp end of the grid because there is so much history in that team, and it is such a joy to see the Papayas now fighting with the Red Bulls right at the top. On the other hand, at Red Bull Racing, even though we have the very level headed and results driven Christian Horner at the helm, Red Bull will actually lose two very important people from their team starting next year, and the effects of their departure are already showing in the way the team is now functioning. Well, one of course is the aerodynamics guru of the Formula One world, that is Mr. Adrian Newey, and we all know how instrumental he has been in building race winning cars, championship winning cars, not just for Red Bull but also for the teams that he has worked with in the past. At this stage, there is no one who can actually match the technological prowess or the aerodynamic abilities that Adrian Newey can design for a car. And losing him at the end of the year is really costing Red Bull, because now they have to prepare for life without Mr. Adrian Newey, and a part of it begins this season. Adrian Newey is not the only person that Red Bull is going to lose. They also see Mr. Jonathan Wheatley, who was the sporting director for the team, leave them for Audi, and he's going to become their team principal in 2026. So Jonathan Wheatley is actually the rule books man for the team as well. Now, if you do remember the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, it was Jonathan Wheatley conversing with Michael Massey in the final couple of laps of that very controversial race, which also turned out to be the title decider between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Some say there was also a power struggle within the team. Now that is all speculation, but if there was, then of course that also wouldn't have helped matters, the smooth running of the team when it comes to action on track. So, well, first up, of course, is the damages that Red Bull have to live with this season. Second, of course, is the departure of two very senior personnel that Red Bull have to now live with come 2025. These two things are affecting their performance this year. Now, the third most important thing, of course, is the performance of their second driver in Checo Perez. He's only had 4 podium finishes, which is quite lackluster in terms of performance on track, and he sits P7 in the championship, which is something that Red Bull is not too pleased about. If we were to compare the performance of the two McLaren drivers, we have Lando Norris in P2 and Oscar Piastri in P4. So both the drivers have been instrumental in helping McLaren bring that gap down against Red Bull. Now, there were a lot of theories going on that Perez would be replaced during the summer break by either Daniel Ricciardo or Yuki Tsunoda, but yeah, Christian Horner reiterated that Red Bull would stick with Checo for the rest of the season, and they would hope that Checo would be able to recover his lost form. Sergio Perez had a decent showing at the Dutch Grand Prix, but even his decent performance was not able to better the performance of Oscar Piastri. That eventually kind of helped McLaren outscore Red Bull again at Zandvoort. Now, if Red Bull need to maintain a grasp on the top step of the Constructors Championship, they need both the drivers in Max Verstappen and Checo Perez to perform to the best of their abilities. We do not really need to question how good Max is, because on most occasions, even under pressure, Max rarely makes mistakes. He's very consistent. It is Sergio Perez who's been very mercurial in his performances this season. He's kind of lost his form as compared to how he was last year. So, yeah, the team would be hoping that Sergio is able to find something in the car that kind of agrees with his driving style and helps him step up in his performances to help Red Bull eventually retain that title against McLaren at the end of the season. It is now time to talk about the Drivers' Championship, which of course is the most talked about championship amongst all the fans. Yeah, we have a very interesting title fight unfolding before us this year. We still have Max Verstappen in the lead, triple world champion, reigning world champion, aiming to defend his title. And Max sits on 295 points, 70 points clear of Lando Norris, who actually heads the chasing pack. Now, even though the gap seems huge, and some of you may say, oh, he's sitting pretty, he doesn't really need to feel threatened by Lando Norris and McLaren. I need to give you a couple of examples where the title fight turned completely in the favor of the other side. Well, the most recent example for me is the 2022 MotoGP World Championship. We had Pecco Bagnaia sitting 6th in the championship, 91 points adrift of Fabio Quartararo at the halfway point of the MotoGP season. And then at the end of the season, he actually overturned that deficit to take the title away from Fabio. If I were to talk from Formula 1, well, there was a certain Mr. Kimi Raikkonen in 2007 who was trailing the duo of Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso by 17 points with 2 races to go. And when the checkered flag was waved at the Brazilian Grand Prix, which was the season's finale, Raikkonen walked away with the Formula 1 championship by 1 point. So you can never say never in the world of motorsport, and things can change very quickly. Do we see Lando Norris reducing that deficit even further and probably even winning the championship at the end? Well, we have 9 races still to go, and out of these 9 Grand Prix, we also have 3 sprint race weekends that are a part of those 9 Grand Prix weekends. So if it's a traditional Grand Prix weekend, then we have 26 points up for grabs, 25 points for the win plus a point for the fastest lap. And if I were to add the sprint weekend, then we have 34 points up for grabs with 8 points rewarded to the winner of the sprint race. If I were to do my maths and add it all up, we have around 258 points that can go either way. For me personally, I think it's definitely going down to the wire. We might see a title showdown in Abu Dhabi, and I honestly think that Lando Norris might have a chance this year, provided he stays consistent, provided he is able to maintain this level of performance throughout the final 9 rounds of this Formula 1 season. Well, what we saw yesterday, like the official Formula 1 page put it, statement, a 22.9 second margin over Max Verstappen at his home race in Zandvoort. That speaks volumes of how good that McLaren is under Lando Norris. Now, when I was at the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix, we got to know that Max Verstappen took an extra engine unit outside his allocation of units for the season, which of course attracts a 10 place grid penalty. And I was of the opinion that Max Verstappen would easily win the race even from P11 on the grid. A new engine can be operated at its best performance level in terms of outright power because of the relatively low mileage that engine would have gone through. The Red Bull down the straight with with DRS assistance is practically unbeatable. And of course, Max Verstappen, as I've seen in the last couple of seasons, has the knack of coming through the field. But yeah, unfortunately, contrary to all our predictions, Max struggled to make it to the podium, and P4 was the best he could achieve in Belgium. Comes Zandvoort, well, he seemed to be struggling with balance issues, and it kind of showed in the performance that the Dutchman gave at his home race. Things don't seem to be as promising for him, because we now have Italy, which is the fastest race on the calendar, and Monza is very similar to Spa and Zandvoort in terms of outright power. Singapore traditionally has not been a great venue for the Red Bulls or for Max Verstappen. He struggled last year. Lando, on the other hand, well, he's enjoying a lot of upgrades coming his way. There are more upgrades promised by the team in the upcoming rounds, so things promise to only get better for him from here on. What is though most important is that he has to keep his car on the sharper end of the grid. He has to ensure that his performances stay consistent. Oscar Piastri, of course, is going to play a very, very pivotal role, as also will Checo Perez. But I still think that Oscar would be more important for McLaren and Lando Norris in this title fight. So yeah, 2024 is now becoming a very interesting season for all of us. The constructors fight, well, I think that McLaren will take top honors at the end of the season. Red Bull, with its changes at the top and the mercurial performances that Checo has been delivering for them, might not be able to match McLaren at the end of the day. Of course, that cost cap limit will also be playing a very important role towards the business end of the season. For the drivers' title fight, I think that Lando will run it close. If he is able to maintain this sort of form over the next 5 or 6 races, then my money would be on Lando Norris. But knowing Max Verstappen, he is not going to be pushed aside, and he will fight till the bitter end to retain his title. Things are going to get feisty. It's going to be a lot of fun for us fans to watch, and for me as a neutral, well, I'll absolutely love these on-field battles, because this is what Formula 1 is all about. Finally, totally unrelated to all that I've been talking about over the last 20 odd minutes, I am really, really happy to see Jack Doohan sign for Alpine for the 2025 season. Congratulations to the Australian, another rookie on the grid. It's going to be amazing to see Jack now race full time in Formula 1, because he truly deserves it. He's been putting in the hard yards for the team, trying to bridge the gap to the teams at the front with all the simulator work that he's been doing back in Enston, and then taking those early morning flights on Saturday to fulfill his on-track duties with the team as well on a race weekend. Well, it's great to see the name Doohan back in the motorsports world, and for me, who was a fan of the legendary Mick Doohan, Mick Doohan, of course, is my first motorsports hero. So for me to see his son now race in Formula 1 brings an added joy. So congratulations, Jack. I am looking forward to seeing you race in 2025, and I wish you all the best. I know you are already prepping up for your Formula 1 debut, and I can't wait to see you in the Alpine livery in Albert Park for your debut at your home race. Anyways, guys, this brings me to the end of this video. I just wanted to share my opinions and thoughts about this constructors and drivers championship fight that's unfolding before our eyes in the 2024 F1 season. It's good for the sport, of course. It doesn't make things boring. Change of guard happening even before the dawn of the new technical regulations in the sport. So yeah, I hope you all have enjoyed this video. As always, I will be leaving the links to my other social media handles in the description below. So if you guys want to connect with me on other social media handles, please do so. I'll also be leaving the links to my race experiences from Austria and Belgium in the top right hand side corner for you guys to see. Please do visit those videos as well. They are exhaustive race experiences from the 2 race weekends. Thank you so much for all your support over the years. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. This is Kimmy Yanks signing off. God bless you all.